Hey guys, Coach here. Welcome to the Yard Coach Studios and welcome to this week's video. Hey, this week we are covering landscapes involving seniors. Those people just like me that have probably approached, are in, or well into the retirement years. Thanks for being here. Let's get going. Hey, welcome back. Hey, we're going to cover 3 points of view, basically, or 3 options that seniors often go through for their landscapes as they get older. Now, if you can remember, if I'm talking to millennials, younger adults, first-time home owners, etc., we go through phases of home ownership. We go through those, oh, finally we're able to afford a house phase and we move into our first house. Very exciting times, very challenging times, and a little nerve-wracking for those first-time homeowners. What do I do? When do I do it? Etc. But as we migrate through those phases of life, maybe we have 1, 2, or even 3 move-up homes as we get older. Our resources get a little bit deeper and we can afford maybe a little bit more. We reach a time in our lives that retirement may be an actual real thing. And as such, when it comes to our landscape, how does it change and how does it provide for us the things that we need in our mid-50s to mid-60s, mid-60s to mid-70s, and mid-70s and beyond? It does change, and it depends on the person themselves, the location, and whether they're going to stay in their forever home or is it time to cash in the chips, move to a warmer locale, etc., where you have a total different view again of what your landscape, if you're going to have one, is going to do for you. So the 3 that I have come across, both professionally and personally, are these. Number 1, retirees tend to have a heck of a lot more time on their hands. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing. And as it comes to the landscape theme, many people do one of these. One is expansion. That's generally kind of goes along with the people who always wanted to do more. They wanted to get more. They wanted to immerse themselves deeper. They wanted to have bigger, bolder, more beautiful landscapes than what they had when they were cranking and grinding all those earlier decades and had basically Saturday and Sunday to pay attention to the yard. But they wanted to pay attention to the yard. That's the big difference. So expansion, maybe moving and expanding a landscape or expanding what they have and making it more intricate, more complicated in a good way, and more inviting, something that they could really get out and enjoy on a daily or weekly basis at the very least and take care of it. Really, really get into the landscaping and gardening mantra. Now, another one is the opposite of that. It's, I'm tired of mowing a lawn. I'm tired of nipping and tucking and raking and spraying and harvesting and cleaning and pest controls. That I've had enough of that. I want to downsize my yard and I want to make it into a super low maintenance. Super low maintenance. That way it frees me up to go do other things that my elder years have earned. I've earned to be able to do. I want to play more golf. I want to travel. I want to go see my kids and wherever they're at. I want to play with the grandkids. And I really don't want to have to be shackled to a landscape that needs all this attention. And the third one is modification. Modification of what they have already. Now, that can be kind of a hybrid of the first two, but mostly it's keeping what you have, automating it, maybe putting a spin on it here and there that might reduce some of the maintenance. And most of that comes from weekly lawn care. That's the highest maintenance you can have in a landscape. And maybe you add a couple of things that add some ambiance or fun. Maybe even a reversion, going back to when you had kids in the house, but now you have grandkids that maybe come visit on a regular or semi-regular basis. And you need a yard or something to entertain them again. So maybe that vegetable garden or whatever you have now gets reverted back to the play area that maybe it was many years ago. So expansion, contraction, reduction, and just plain modification. Those are the three things that I have seen that seniors tend to do. Now, being a senior myself, I speak to you from professional experience, but also firsthand experience. Now, I'm here in my going on 68 years old, 67 now. And I'll tell you this, from my own personal experience, and Maestro's too, we have come to kind of strike a balance in Brook and Pond. And we kind of had some criteria that we wanted to have after we came off the road full-time traveling for 4 years. There was some criteria that we wanted to meet. And that criteria not only met what we wanted today or when we were buying at that point in time, but also tried to extend that out 5, 10, 15 years, however long, God is going to keep me here before he calls me home. So some of the criteria that we wanted and something that you should think about as you come into retirement years is what you have, is it what you need? And what we wanted and what we needed was this. Number one, we wanted privacy. We have, coming from Northern California, there's very few places that you can afford that offer up real privacy. In the suburbs, you got a 6-foot neighbor fence, 2-story houses, etc. You're in a fishbowl in many respects. And if you don't have 2-story houses around you, maybe you just have neighbors around you. You have a lot of neighbors around you, across the street, on both sides, behind your back fence. So the privacy issue can be a challenge. And we didn't want that again. So we wanted some privacy. Another priority that we had come to really enjoy and had hoped to attain in our next home, and that was a natural setting. Something that was not in town, in a city in any way, shape, or form. We wanted a natural setting, which we had exposed ourselves repeatedly being out on the road. And the natural setting kind of had to have maybe a little bit of acreage to it, which we did find here at Brook and Pond. Not a lot, 2.5 acres, but 2.5 acres is a lot to care for if you want to be a responsible land and homeowner. 2.5 acres is a lot of space, a heck of a lot more than a 60 by 100 foot lot. The other thing is, it would be nice if we could find something that had natural water on it. A brook or a stream running through it or to it or by it, maybe a pond. And with that, you kind of have that natural ambiance of Mother Nature's water that you can kind of modify and accent a little bit into a little more water noise rather than just a flat, gliding stream that doesn't have a lot of noise to it at all. Fortunately, here at Brook and Pond, after a lot of searching, we have 2 little streams and a pond as well. And they are, as I've mentioned in other videos, they can be kind of a tempest. They really can. They can be the most, like right now, outside, even though it's really cool, they're at the perfect flow where if you go outside, you can hear it. You can hear it echoing throughout the whole forest. You can hear the bigger brook and you can hear Little Brook. And as you saw in previous videos, our little 11 by 12 foot deck now overlooks the pond, and we've been able to access areas on the other side of the pond which might have some development next year. And so we were able to check that as well. So when it comes to your senior years, and if I'm talking to somebody in their 30s, you'll be surprised how quickly those years will be here, like that. And you'll start using the old adages, man, isn't the time going a lot faster now than it was when you were in your 20s, or your 30s? And especially after kids fly the coop, how fast time goes. And if you're not prepared for it, if you're not setting yourself up financially, if you're not taking care of yourself physically, those senior years can either be a blessing or a curse. So back when I was in the biz as a designer and contractor, I came across a lot of seniors or very close to seniors that were doing this modification. And in NorCal at the time, we had a huge influx of people that were coming from more populated areas. In my case, the San Francisco Bay Area, the dot-commers and everybody like that were jumping the Bay Area and coming out to the Central Valley and buying up houses, for themselves and maybe an investment one in cash. They were selling their homes in the Bay Areas for well over $1 million and coming out and buying a Central Valley home of about the same size as what they had for $300, $275, maybe $400. And if they really got the Gucci bug, you could buy a house, a custom built house for $500,000 back then. Not so much now, but we saw a lot of that. And that was a lot of my customer base. I would get hired to design up their front yards and their backyards. And it was amazing. It was amazing what they would say to me at the design table. When I did my kitchen spiel, they would say, we had such and such at our old house in San Jose or in Fremont or Millbrae or wherever. They'd come out and we don't want to care for something that much. Or exactly the opposite. They'd say, we had this little dinky front yard. We weren't able to do too much gardening. And now we want to do a lot more. That's why we bought this, half-acre lot or this country home out here on 2 acres. We want to really expand. We want to put in a small weekend warrior orchard, and it all depends on the person. The other thing that really came to bear during my interviews was their health, how they were holding up. God has blessed me so far where at 67, I can still do some things, fairly easily. I can. I just can't do them for as long as I did when I was in the business or certainly back in my 30s and 40s. The body just doesn't go that hard that long anymore. So a hard work day in the July heat with a little humidity up here, I would either get going really early and be done by noon or 1, or I'd take my time and get out there, find the shady spot down by Little Brook when I was building the bridge, and maybe I'd pump in 4 or 5 hours. I wasn't really up against a schedule or up against a clock, except what I self-imposed upon myself. So when I talk to these folks, they would say, we want low maintenance, we're going to travel, we're going to go see our kids, we're closer to our kids now, so we need something for a little bit of a kid-friendly backyard again, whatever. And I would design and build things like that. So where do you fall on that sliding scale? Is your health still good? Do you look forward to the next 10, 20, 30 years of retirement? Are you able to get out and do the things you want? Are you able to, fly off globally and see the world? And how does that reflect back on what your home and your landscape does for you? Now, in previous videos and also on Homescape 2.0 and the ebook, Landscaping Simplified, I share a story with you about Laura. And Laura was a client of mine in a nearby town where I worked, and she was entering into retirement. She had lost some parents, inherited some monies, and she wanted to reinvest it into her house in downsizing her maintenance. Besides, the city she lived in had horrific water bills. To keep her half-assed front yard and backyard lawn green and somewhat thriving, I wouldn't say it was thriving, it was staying alive, she was pumping out $650 a month in a water bill, which just gobsmacked me. Well, when we got all done and we designed everything up and installed it for her, we reduced her maintenance by 80% at least. Some fall leaves from neighbors' trees and stuff we couldn't avoid. But water consumption, 90% reduction. She went down to almost under $100 a month, and then once she pulled the pin at work and she was able to travel, I took care of the place a little bit. But for the most part, there was nothing to take care of except fall cleanup, basically. She fertilized, or I fertilized, and she went off and saw the world for a few years. A wonderful setup for a single woman who wanted to travel with friends and a couple of the groups she was in, and she really thought it out as far as what she wanted to do. So I put it back in your lap. Where are you at on that particular scale? Do you want to expand and get into gardening and horticulture and really enjoy those years growing and harvesting and picking and planting and taking care of what you have and what you've earned? And I do mean earned, lasting 60 plus years on this planet and the society we're in. It's a battle. It's literally a battle to keep your sanity, keep yourself above board in the black financially, and be able to come out of that 4-decade vortex tunnel of life to where you can actually enjoy the remaining years you have. So, expansion, or are you one of those downsizers that want to make it Laura's yard type of thing and really be able to enjoy other things rather than caring for a yard? The other thing that people do, and that I have seen, and it's more of a just a priority, is they'll hire out their landscape care, their weekly landscape care. The mow and blows come in and take care of their stuff. Does it mean that they've modified their landscape? No. Are they keeping the house they're in? Probably. And they're just going to maintain what they have. They're not eager to get out and pound the dirt and make anything different. They just want to have what they have and keep it nice and make it last, and then enjoy life on their terms when it comes to the last couple of decades, 3 decades maybe. So let's talk about groups of seniors. I call them earlies, mids, and lates. Lates are also called super. But the early seniors, 55 to 65, you guys still have mostly your health with you, God willing. Your ticker's good. Maybe you've taken care of yourself physically and you don't have any predetermined conditions that are come up and bite you. And you're still able to do what you want to do pretty much, like I described earlier, and be able to function physically. Maybe not for 8 to 10 hours a day outside, but you can get out there and take care of things on a daily basis or as you see fit. And that's where the expansion generally comes from, is in those years. Now for mid-seniors, where I'm kind of at now at 67, 65 to 80, those mid-seniors, we start to get kind of set. where we've survived this long. We have what we have, and we will add to or subtract as we see fit and what our minds and bodies tend to let us do. And we're probably not going to go into big landscape renovations. We're just going to enjoy life on life's terms and our terms as long as we can hold together. And the landscape is just going to be what it's going to be, except some maybe add a little this tinkering around in the springtime when you get the spring bug, and maintaining what you have both under your own steam, and maybe you bring in somebody to mow the lawn. Maybe you don't. I don't yet. I won't for a while, God willing. And we get through life. We do our travels. We see our friends. We enjoy our kids and grandkids on little different terms. And we live our life. And then there's the super seniors, 80 and above. Now the landscape, say for instance this place, Brook and Pond. By the time I'm in my 80s, I will be able to do some things. I'd be able to get on a ride-on mower and still go mow the lawn. But chances are I'm not going to be cutting out big beds and doing major renovations. That's not going to be a priority for a senior that old. We may or we may not get out and do some plantings, like the garden beds that Maestro and I just built and got ready for next spring. That would be all I'd want to garden for by the time I'm 85 years old. I'll go out there and put some seedlings in, or sow some carrots or radishes or lettuce or whatever. But it's really on a term and a safe haven for somebody who's much older as far as navigating around. Do you have that third leg that you need now, or that walker? I don't foresee needing any sort of a wheelchair, powered wheelchair or anything like that. If I get to that point in life, Brook and Pond may be in the rearview mirror, and you're going to have to downsize and find something a little more compatible to those physical limitations. The other thing is when you get into that age, unless you've been blessed with a body that is not going to break down on you very much, oftentimes ground level work becomes a challenge. And I have done a couple 3 yards where raised beds really came into vogue. I can remember doing a backyard for a family who were, the wife was okay, the husband was infirmed as a result of a stroke. And he was the gardener, bless his heart. And we wanted to go in there and raise the garden up from what it was. And so he could rotate around with a walker or a power chair and be able to garden at a comfortable height. And I had 3-foot beds, redwood built beds everywhere, interlocking in shapes with wide pathways, concrete pathways, automated irrigation, some low voltage lighting where you could go out and do it in the evenings or at night. Very safe place for someone in his condition. So raised beds come into vogue. So you get your containers up, you get your beds up, and you're not having to get down on all fours and your hands and knees to weed and do that and plant. Sometimes we get to the point in life where that is not a comfortable way to garden any longer. So for us, our travel itch has kind of been scratched pretty good. 4 years of being out on the road and doing things, it was time. Now there's some people out there that travel will be their be all and end all forever. But with the channel, and with my horticultural bug still well intact, we're glad we found where we're at. We are blessed to be where we are at. And my taproot has gone kind of deep here in a quick hurry. In the first 12 months of being here, I was outside every single day, every time I had the energy just to grind and pump and get this forest back to safe, back to clean, back to navigable. And it is there now. Boy, did I go through a few chainsaw blades. Now we have something to look at, something to walk around safely, even at night. Not the trails, but certainly the driveways and everything around the house. You can walk at night. Little low voltage lighting here and there, a little solar lighting on the garage and the gable ends give us plenty of ambiance light where you can go walk around, even when it's cold, even when it's frozen. And that was very important to us. And the beds that we put in this year, the hillside bed that we did last year, the boulder bed in the backyard that we did, what is it now? Almost 18 months, are thriving. The new garden beds are going to be used next year. We even put in a berry bed that's going to have blueberries and strawberries next year. And now I turn my attention down to the far side of the pond and see what I can come up with for next year. And once that is done, Maestro always laughs at me, but once that is done, we're going to kind of kick the clutch in, automate it in the form of irrigation so that we can get through the 6-week dry spell that our area kind of endures every year from about mid-August to the end of September. Not very much rain at all. And the lawns really start to shrivel up. New plantings kind of can dry out. So you're going to see on the channel next year a lot of automation of irrigation. And we're also going to see a little bit of drainage work for our driveway, because when it has rained heavy, and I mean an inch an hour heavy, our driveway tends to want to gully out and wash away. So I've crowned it as much as I can. I need to gutter it just a little bit more on one side and further down on the other side, and then put in some drain lines across for water capture so I can nix this washout stuff forever. So getting back out on the road again may be a very big possibility, and being able to go explore maybe abroad just a little bit, within our scope of resources, etc. So that's what I have for you this week. Landscaping for your senior years. Hey, you might want to check out next week's video and podcast, because I'm going to do exactly the opposite. We're going to go into depth about first-timers, noobs coming into the homeownership world, and some of the things to look for as you're buying, after you bought, and getting on that homeownership takeoff ramp correctly. Anyway, as always, to your guys' landscape success, don't forget the website, youryardcoach.com. I'll catch up with you guys next week, as always, and I'll say goodbye for now.